Today is April 21st, and we are interviewing Kenneth Edwards, born April 26th, 1925. My name is Shelby Peters, and I will be the interviewer along with Lindsey Peterson. And where did you start your training?
At Farragut, Idaho, and Camp Benyon, and then went on to Lafayette, Indiana, for shipboard wiring, and then I was sent on to Jacksonville, Florida, the Naval Air Station, to learn aviation electrician, and then I was shipped out to San Diego, and worked on a field where B-24s where pilots were training, and from there I was sent overseas and spent the rest of my period at Fleet Air Wing 2 in Pacific Theater.
Now, did you enlist in the Navy, or?
No, I was drafted.
Drafted? And what year was that?
1943.
How'd you feel about being drafted?
Well, it was pretty inevitable the way the country was going, and I wasn't surprised, and I wasn't concerned as far as I was concerned. But I'm glad that I was able to serve.
Now, were you glad that you got the Navy? Did you get to pick the Navy, or?
There were about 60 men were sent down to Des Moines to be inducted, and they picked 2 for the Navy, 1 for the Marines, and the rest went to the Army.
Are you glad you didn't go to the Army?
Oh, not necessarily. I was thinking that might be a good route too, but just the way the needs were for manpower, and so that's where I started out in the Navy.
And what was your feelings about the war prior to your enlistment?
Well, in that war, our country was attacked, or the people who we were protecting were attacked in Hawaii, and so I felt there was a need to go and serve, and it just happened that I didn't get called before I graduated from high school, so that was pretty good. One comment I had to make when we left from San Diego on an LST, when we lost sight of the United States, I had a funny feeling in my stomach.
And what was training like for you?
Well, it was good. I mean, we had good instructors, and in boot camp they got us straightened out to get a little physically more able to do things. And so I think most of World War II veterans felt that it was good training that we had.
Any specific memories or experiences from training?
Well, no, not especially. There were different ones were wiped out for physical reasons during that time period. And in Jacksonville, where we were training under the aviation electricians, the field had a lot of fighter planes that pilots were training. Same time, getting ready to go overseas.
And when you shipped out, you said you had a funny feeling when you lost sight of the United States. Was there a feeling of that with everybody on the ship, or?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't hear that too much, but I was an only child in the family, and a little on a bashful order, and it just.
How many men were on the ship with you?
Oh goodness, I don't know. There were several groups from different places that had been in training. We had on board a landing ship would get shoved off the LST when they got there, and would carry so many men and so much armament for an assault on a beach. And had it not been for the atomic bomb, I probably would have been one of many men that would have had to make an assault on the Japanese island itself. We were given knowledge that that's probably what the route would be.
What was the name of the ship you were on?
It's an LST 383.
And what was the specific mission of your ship at that time?
Well, it was just used as a transport to take people over to Hawaiian Islands, then they're shipped out
So
further.
what was your job on the ship?
I got in the mess kitchen. And a little unique situation because aboard an LST, where they served the meals was one deck, and where you washed the dishes was a deck down. And you had to carry baskets of dishes down in a basket to wash them and dry them, and then carry it back up the ladder to.
What was life on the ship like? What kind of activities did you do or pass the time?
Well, we weren't really assigned any other duties, so we spent a lot of time out on watching the ocean and sailfish and porpoises and things like that. It was kind of interesting. Once I got over my feelings of leaving the country, I was fine.
How long were you on the ship?
10 days, took 10 days. And we had a small 165-foot boat with us, and we had to fuel them up a couple times on our trip over. And we were carrying depth charges. Had one sub alert, which everybody got the call to the station, but there was no action needed. So until they decide they're friend or foe, they are fully alert, ready to go into action.
And were there any other close calls with submarines or pilot attacks on your ship?
Not on the way over there. At one time, after I was assigned to the aviation electrician shop in Canada Bay, I went out on a flight to parallel generators on the plane, and we hadn't gotten up very long until they did have a sub alert, and they made a dive on that. But other than that, that's all the action close up that I had.
And when they had a sub alert called, what was the reaction of the men aboard the ship? What did you guys do?
Well, they politely told me to sit in a chair and not do anything until that was over. They didn't want me to interrupt all their gauges and things.
Mm-hmm. And where was your travel destination when you were on the ship?
We were headed for Pearl Harbor, Ford Island.
And once you got there, what did you do?
Well, we were put in the barracks for the time being, and one morning we went to eat breakfast. It was foggy. Came back out and saw the Saratoga and battleship Wisconsin moored right next to us, probably 100 yards from us.
You said you're an electrical engineer?
Aviation electrical, yeah.
Okay, so you worked on planes then?
Yes, I worked for PBM Mariner. They're a seaplane, and they were the ones that did the long patrols out on our traffic lanes to make sure that there weren't any vessels that would interfere with the vessels that were transporting things ahead to where the operations are taking place.
Did you have a specific job when you were working on those planes, like radar or just very general?
No, I was trained to remove and replace generators, and I was also trained to work on the 50 caliber electric machine gun turrets. And other than that, just whatever came up, worked with whoever had other things they needed to do to accomplish the job that was needed.
Did you like the electrical work, or?
Yes, it was interesting. Quite detailed at times, but yeah, it was satisfying to be able to keep those old planes going.
And when you were stationed there and you lived in the barracks, what are some of you and the men around you did for entertainment?
Well, we had a PX, I guess you would call it. You could go and get sandwiches or a milkshake or something when you were off duty. They had a theater there, and also they had a movie most every night, and it rained most every night, and the mosquitoes bit most of it every night. So they took a pail and a poncho and some cigarettes and make some smoke and watch the movie. Once in a while they had live entertainment too.
And did you get to keep in contact with your family?
Oh yes, yeah. And the mail went through pretty rapidly from there.
Mm-hmm. And who did you write to?
Oh, my folks, my grandparents primarily. Mm-hmm. I was fresh out of high school, so I didn't have a girlfriend or anything. So.
Now you're in the Hawaiian Islands, correct?
Yeah, I was on Oahu, island of Oahu.
And was there any sense of like Pearl Harbor? How did the people react or talk about that?
Well, when we landed, we went through, not much of it had been cleaned up yet in 1943. And people had a lot of respect for the people who had been aboard these ships. And so you showed your respect going and coming from that area. Also, when we were in Fort Island, they come and barracks and recruited a crew to put together bulletins. They were sent out further. We were locked in, and while we were doing our job, and then back to the barracks. So it was highly sensitive material that we were handling.
These planes you worked on, did you ever get to work on any planes that had like battle damage, or did you just help get them up and running?
Well, anything that went wrong on a flight, they reported, and then we would work on them. Generator was bad, I would replace that. They had what they called an assembly repair on the island, and they took those in, and there were other people who were trained to fix them up again so they could be used.
And were you still stationed in the Hawaiian Islands when the war was over?
Yes.
And how did you react?
Well, there was quite a celebration. We had a chance to go to the beach and have some fun out there. And it was kind of a relief.
And were you there when the ships started returning home with men on them?
Yes. In fact, I'd become first class aviation electricians. So when we were sent over to Fort Island again, the staging area, I found out that I had the duty of taking charge of about 50 of the men that were returning from further out. Some of them were pretty battle-worn and very seasick. We came back on a transport, La Vaca, to San Francisco, and then from there by rail back to Minneapolis, where we were discharged.
And after you were discharged, did you stay in this, or after the war was over, how much longer did you stay into your service?
I didn't. I was discharged, and they weren't needing near as many men. So if you wanted to volunteer again, you had to go for 4 years, and I was homesick enough that I wanted to get home.
And what did you do after you returned home?
Well, I went to your alma mater here for a couple of years.
Did you do that on a GI Bill?
Yes. And then I went to Ames. I was heading for electrical engineering degree. And I'd been down there a quarter, and then my wife got notice from her parents that one of their farms would be available and wanted to know if we wanted to go farming. And I didn't have a choice there. She wanted to do that, and that was fine.
And after your service, were you awarded any medals or citations?
Well, there's some, just nothing too great. Just the fact that a good conduct award and had served in the Asiatic Pacific Theater, and that was about it.
But you brought your patch for us today. Could we?
That's insignia for the aviation electrician, first class.
Okay.
I got 3 ratings while I was out in Hawaii. Some of them didn't seem to care. I thought, well, you make a little more money and just as well get more training, and so that's the route that I took.
What are you most proud of your service?
Oh, just the fact that I was able to be in and help whatever I was assigned to.
Were there any points during your service where you had doubts whether we would win the war, or?
Not really. In the theater, indoor theater, you could go in and see it, and they had movies of some of the activities that were going on, and that encouraged us. I had the feeling that we were in a winning battle. It, like I say, had we ever gotten to the point where we had to go in and force into the Japanese islands, I think it had been a pretty tough battle.
And what did you hear while you were there? You said you watched some movies, but what did you hear from the men who were returning about stories of what was happening in Japan and what the combat was like?
Well, we really didn't get too much of that. But Kaneohe Bay was across the island from Pearl Harbor and the general headquarters, so we didn't hear too much. It was a different feeling when you went on Liberty, because I would say roughly 60% of the merchants that you dealt with didn't speak English. Little sign language went on, and that was all right. We realized that we were in foreign territory, so to speak. There were many Japanese people there, along with Asiatic Pacific tribes that had come back into the Hawaiian Islands and were in business or just working there. When we went on Liberty, we had a choice of taking a bus over the Palais, they called it. It was a winding road that went across the mountain over to Honolulu and Fort Island in that area. Or you could take a taxi cab. And if you had a little change in your pocket, you usually took the taxi cab. It was quicker.
Any other specific memories you remember from your service, or anything you'd like to share with us?
Oh, right at the moment, I don't think of anything. As long as I wasn't in, active fighting, I didn't have much of anything to tell on that. We did lose one plane in the bay coming in that had been on patrol, and it was kind of a foggy afternoon, and they dropped too hard and split the tanks open and it burned out. And that was kind of a saddening experience.
You said earlier that you had applied for an honor flight. Can you tell us a little more about your plans for that?
Yes, it's sponsored by the Brushy Creek people out of Fort Dodge, and they're trying to get all the World War II veterans that are able to do it to go and see the Washington D.C. and see all the memorials that are set up there for all the servicemen. And I think that'll be quite interesting, as well as quite an honor.
When do you go for that?
May 7th. We have to travel down to Fort Dodge, the fairgrounds, on the 27th, I believe it is, and get more information on what is expected of us.
And do you ever get to see any of your buddies from your service?
Really haven't. They were all from different parts of the country, and so I didn't. We were there for a purpose, and when we got done, everybody was glad to go home, and we didn't think about that part, I don't think.
And is there any last final words or anything you'd like to add?
Well, other than I was privileged to have served, and glad that I had that opportunity.
We'd like to thank you very much for taking time to interview with us.
That's fine. I'm glad to take time to do that.